The lights from the ballroom glimmered like stars, reflecting off the polished marble floors as laughter filled the air. Christmas melodies played softly while couples danced and executives toasted success. In the middle of that glowing room, Emily stood frozen, her heart breaking piece by piece. She had come to support her husband Daniel, the company's vice president, expecting a night of celebration. But instead, he walked through the grand doors with his secretary, a young woman named Claire, holding his arm as if she belonged there. And when their eyes met, Daniel didn't even flinch. He smiled, that cruel, self-satisfied smile. The room went silent for a second as whispers began to ripple like wildfire. Emily's chest tightened. The humiliation was unbearable. For years she had been by his side, helping him rise through the corporate ladder, hosting dinners, staying up late editing his presentations, and sacrificing her own dreams. And now he had chosen this moment in front of hundreds of people to destroy her dignity. She forced herself to stay calm, her eyes stinging, her heart heavy. "Don't give him the satisfaction," she told herself. With every ounce of strength, she turned, smiled politely at a few onlookers, and walked out. No tears, not yet. That night, alone in their once beautiful home, Emily finally broke down. Memories flooded back, the love, the promises, the laughter that now felt like lies. But after hours of crying, something changed inside her. Pain slowly hardened into resolve. She decided she wouldn't be a victim of his cruelty. Daniel had humiliated her publicly, but she would rebuild privately, in silence, and on her own terms. The next day, while Daniel basked in the gossip and attention, Emily began planning. She had always been intelligent and capable. Even though Daniel liked to pretend she wasn't, she had left her career years ago to support him. But she still had connections, people who remembered her kindness, her work ethic, and her creativity. By morning, she contacted an old colleague who now owned a startup. Within hours, Emily had an offer not out of pity, but respect. Her first step toward independence had begun. Meanwhile, Daniel's arrogance grew. He mocked her silence, assuming she was shattered beyond repair. But what he didn't know was that Emily had already gathered documents, emails, and records evidence of his misuse of company funds and his affair with his secretary. For years, she had trusted him, but as his behavior changed, she quietly kept track. Not for revenge, but for protection. 50 hours after that fateful night, just a little more than 2 days later, Daniel's empire began to crumble. It started with a phone call from the company's legal department. An anonymous report had been filed, exposing his misconduct and unethical behavior. The board moved fast, suspending impending investigation. News spread quickly. The same people who whispered about Emily's humiliation were now whispering about Daniel's downfall. When he came home, angry and panicked, Emily was packing her bags. She looked calm, almost serene. "You humiliated me, Daniel," she said softly. "But you forgot who I was. I stood beside you for years. I saw everything. And now I'm done." He shouted, pleaded, even tried to blame her. But Emily didn't argue. She'd already signed her divorce papers and left them on the kitchen counter right beside a note that read, "You taught me what I never want to become." Weeks later, Emily began a new chapter. Her startup role quickly turned into something more significant. She became a partner, helping grow the company into a thriving business. Her story began to spread among her community, not as the woman who was humiliated, but as the woman who refused to stay broken. Her strength, grace, and quiet determination inspired others to stand up for themselves. Daniel, on the other hand, faded from the headlines. His career collapsed under the weight of his ego and mistakes. The secretary moved on to another job, and the once proud executive found himself isolated, haunted by the woman he had underestimated. Months later, Emily attended another Christmas party, this time as a successful woman, standing tall and smiling with genuine joy. She realized that pain had been her greatest teacher. Humiliation had become her fuel. She didn't need revenge because success was its own victory. Her message to the world became clear. No one can take your worth unless you hand it to them. What Daniel thought would destroy her had, instead, set her free. And under the twinkling lights that Christmas night, Emily finally felt peace because she had learned the greatest truth of all. That sometimes, losing everything you thought you needed is how you finally find yourself.